Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We've got a wonderfully relatable and honestly incredibly practical piece of source material to unpack. It comes to us from a fascinating recent journal entry by a gardener named Ang, dated April 28, 2026. Now, if you've ever spent time tending to a garden, a balcony planter, or, even just a lonely windowsill pot, you absolutely know the particular mix of hope and heartbreak that comes with growing things. Ang's notes, titled "The Architect of Robust Vincas," capture exactly that journey. We're going to look at a very specific, structural secret that literally transforms average garden variety plants into robust architectural masterpieces. So, let's get right to it.
It is the ultimate gardener's conundrum, isn't it? Why do store-bought plants always look better? Think about it. You buy a beautiful, bushy, vigorous plant from the local garden center. You bring it home, give it the exact same water, the same sunlight, maybe even treat it to some expensive fertilizer. But over the months, or maybe the next time you try growing that exact same species from seed yourself, the results just pale in comparison to those pristine, robust versions you see at professional nurseries. Our source gardener Ang was wrestling with this exact same phenomenon. It's a totally universal frustration, but as we'll see through Ang's careful observations, the difference isn't magic, and it's not some top-secret commercial fertilizer. Actually, it's a matter of structural engineering.
Section 1. The leggy plant problem.
Just to make sure we're all on exactly the same page, let's define our terms. Ang is working specifically with catharanthus-roseus. Now that's the actual botanical name for what is commonly known as the Madagascar-periwinkle, or simply the vinca. These are lovely, typically super resilient plants that produce gorgeous flowers. Ang's journal details a long-term relationship with these vincas. They've been working with them extensively, whether growing them painstakingly from tiny little seeds or buying mature plants to add to the collection. But here's the kicker. The specific origin of the plant didn't really seem to matter. The end result was always inevitably leading to the exact same structural failure. And here is the absolute heart of the issue, captured perfectly in Ang's own words. Quote, "Frustratingly thin, fragile stems." Over time, Ang noted that these vincas inevitably suffer from this exact same elongated, spindly fate. You know the look, right? Gardeners often call this getting leggy. The plant stretches out, the spaces between the leaves get wider, and the branches become weak, literally bending under their own weight, or just the slightest breeze. You can practically hear the sigh of defeat in Ang's journal entry. It's a scenario so many of us can empathize with. Watching a plant you've cared for stretch out into this fragile, messy form, instead of maintaining that sturdy, compact shape we all really want.
Section 2. The nursery revelation.
Now what's really interesting about this is the stark, visible contrast. Ang took a trip to a professional nursery and was immediately confronted by a batch of commercial vincas. On one hand, we have the homegrown vincas, just like Ang's at home, characterized by those elongated, spindly branches and the fragile stems we were just talking about. But on the other hand, the nursery vincas. Ang observed that these had incredibly thick, strong main stems. They possessed an undeniably robust look. Actually, scratch that. They weren't just a little bit better, they were fundamentally, structurally different. This wasn't about the color of the flowers or the size of the leaves. It was the sheer architecture of the main trunk that stopped Ang right in their tracks.
Section 3. The pruning cichlid.
So Ang didn't just admire these professional plants, they looked closer to really deduce the mechanics of their growth. And this brilliantly illustrates the chronological process they uncovered. Step 1. Prune the tips early. Ang noticed that long ago, when these nursery plants were young, their growing tips had been intentionally cut off. Step 2. Force side branches out. By removing that primary top growth, the plant's energy is entirely redirected. It is literally forced to push outward, creating new lateral or side branches. And finally, step 3. Develop a sturdy main trunk. Because the plant is no longer wasting its energy racing upward on a single thin stem, the base thickens up to support this new branching canopy. This step-by-step mechanical intervention directly alters the plant's natural architecture, taking it from fragile to fortified. So the crucial point is this. The nursery secret isn't some complex chemical formula. It's a simple physical action. Early tip pruning forces lateral growth, creating a robust plant architecture instead of spindly branches. It's a beautifully simple methodology. But you have to be willing to seemingly hurt the plant by snipping off its newest, highest growth when it's young, all in order to guarantee its long-term strength and stability. Ang realized that by letting their home collection grow naturally, unbothered, they were actually dooming those vincas to a weak, leggy existence. The professionals intervene early, and honestly, that makes all the difference in the world.
Section 4. The Weekend Action Plan. Knowledge is only truly powerful when it's applied, right? and Ang is wasting absolutely no time. As detailed in the journal entry, they have a very specific strategy lined up for the upcoming long weekend. First up, they're going to propagate new Vincas through cuttings. This is an awesome way to start fresh with exact clones of their existing plants. Next, and this is the most important part, Ang will immediately apply this early tip pruning method to the new cuttings as soon as they're established. The ultimate goal here? To deliberately avoid that elongated, spindly growth that has plagued their collection for so long. By mimicking the precise mechanical steps of the professional nursery, Ang is taking total control of the plant's development right from the very beginning.
Which brings us to a question for you. Which of your spindly plants are you going to experiment on this weekend? Ang's journal entry isn't just a recount of a nursery trip, it's a real invitation for us to look at our own spaces with a more critical, architectural eye. We all have that one plant sitting on a shelf, reaching desperately and awkwardly toward the light, looking way more like a fragile wire than a robust living thing. Maybe it's a vinca, or maybe it's another houseplant sitting right there in your living room. The mechanics of early pruning to force lateral growth applies to so much of the botanical world. Will you have the courage to take a pair of shears to the tip of your plant to guarantee its future strength? I highly recommend you try it out. Observe that architectural shift and see what robust results you can cultivate. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy growing.